Welcome to Pinnacle's NFL Best Bets for Week 5. I'm Anthony Bruno, joined by Scott Cullen on behalf of Pinnacle. Scott, let's not waste any time. I'm throwing it over to you for your first best bet on the Week 5 slate.
My first best bet, Anthony, we're going across the pond. I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings, undefeated. They're 4-0 going into Week 5, playing in London against the New York Jets. And a couple weeks ago, when I saw Aaron Rodgers playing against the Patriots in Week 3, I kind of thought maybe he was back. That, all right, the first couple weeks weren't great, but looked like he might have been on track with a good game against the Patriots. Well, last week against the Broncos, he did not look very good. And so now that's 3 out of 4 games this year that Aaron Rodgers has not looked very good. And I don't think that matches up very well with a Vikings team that, by virtually every measure, has been the best team in football so far. Not just the 4-0 record, but they're first in DVOA, first in defensive DVOA, first in defensive EPA. Part of the deal is that they have a bargain quarterback, right? Sam Darnold, making $10 million, allows them to spend money elsewhere, and they're dominating elsewhere. And on top of that, Darnold's thrown 11 touchdown passes to lead the league. So given the choice here to take on the money line, I am taking Darnold and the Vikings to continue their winning ways against the Jets, and at minus 136, it's a pretty good price.
It's really hard to bet against the Vikings at this point. You mentioned it, how well Sam Darnold is playing. Kevin O'Connell has been amazing. Brian Flores has been the best defensive coordinator in football. And then you look at the Jets, they've been really inconsistent. So I'm right there with you. Really hard to bet against the Vikings in this spot, even though it's an international game in London. I will continue things now with my first best bet. At some point, this team is probably going to come back down to earth, but it's not going to happen this weekend. I am riding the Washington Commanders minus 3.5 at plus 104 at home against the Cleveland Browns. The Commanders' offense has been unbelievable through 4 weeks, leading the NFL in EPA per play and success rate. They're scoring over 30 points per game. Now, listen, I know the Commanders' defense is terrible. I completely understand that. But the Browns' offense has been a disaster. All right, they sit 31st in EPA per play, dead last in success rate. Deshaun Watson has been sacked a league high 19 times, has faced the second highest pressure rate in the league. And did you know that only Bryce Young and Will Levis are the only quarterbacks that have a worse EPA per play this season than Deshaun Watson? So, yeah, it's not good. And listen, I know last year the Browns had a really good defense, but they just have not carried that over into this season. And then you look at last week. So the Browns, playing a Raiders team on the road without Devontae Adams, without Max Crosby, they blew a 10-point lead and lost by 4 as 2.5-point favorites. It's just a very difficult team to trust at this point. And then when you look at Jaden Daniels, he has been amazing this season. He's the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's completing 82% of his throws. He leads the NFL in EPA per play among quarterbacks, 4 rushing touchdowns in 4 games, and this might be the best stat of all. The Commanders have punted just 4 times and turned the ball over once in 4 games. So give me the Commanders to cover the spread, minus 3.5 against the Browns.
Well, and it's funny is that we sit here and through 4 games of Jaden Daniels' career, and it's like, wow, we trust Jaden Daniels now because he has done so well. And, maybe this will be the game where it falls off. But why would you think that? The way the Browns have played this year, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, you have to like the Commanders in this spot. And, I mean, I have a feeling that almost every week we could sit here and pick against Deshaun Watson because it's just impossible to like what they've been doing. And so, yeah, ride Jaden Daniels and away you go.
And, Scott, you've been saying it since week 1, like, we just shouldn't be betting on Deshaun Watson. It's just so difficult to trust him in this Browns team. So, yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels, he'll probably come down to earth at some point. But like I said, I just hope it doesn't happen this weekend. All right, Scott, back over to you for your next best bet.
All right, my next one, I'm going to the Monday Nighter, and I'm taking the New Orleans Saints and Kansas City Chiefs to go over 43.5. It started at 42.5, so the over idea still has, has some support. And look, I understand the Chiefs have injury issues. Rashee Rice joining Hollywood Brown on the sidelines leaves them probably a little thin at wide receiver. And the Kareem Hunt is now their running back. back from the scrap heap. At the same time, I think the New Orleans Saints are going to be able to score on the Chiefs, and so the Chiefs are going to get basically engaged into playing a shootout, and that, I think there's been some, at the start of the year, there was all this hype. Patrick Mahomes is obviously the best quarterback of this generation. But if you looked at fantasy, if you looked at all the betting odds for MVP and things like that, Mahomes was the guy. The numbers so far do not justify that. But I don't think that when, given his track record, that you would write off Patrick Mahomes as being able to guide an offense to, score 3 touchdowns in a game. And so in this game, I think, the Saints will score, and then the Chiefs will try and match them, and that's why I'm taking the over. I will continue on with one more best bet, just if he plays, because we know Malik Nabers is working through concussion protocol for the Giants, but if he does play, I love him for a touchdown against Seattle, in large part because the Giants are feeding him the ball. He has 52 targets through the first 4 weeks, which is kind of insane for a rookie wide receiver. He also has 3 touchdowns, and so as much as I would expect the Seahawks to handle the Giants, I do think the Giants can score, and if they do score, Nabers is the guy to do it.
No, I love it, Scott. So you got Saints Chiefs over 43.5. And yeah, with Patrick Mahomes, like, his weapons are completely depleted, but you got to think at some point those numbers are going to start to tick up a little bit, even though he's basically throwing to like you and I at this point. But it's just hard to believe that it's going to continue just looking at his numbers through the first 4 weeks. And yeah, that Nabers anytime touchdown, if he plays, one thing I will add, as of recording, Pinnacle has the best price in the market at plus 159. I mean, there's like some plus 105s out there, plus 130. Pinnacle has Malik Nabers anytime touchdown at plus 159. All right, I'm going to close things out with my final best bet, and it's very similar to my best bet from last week. I am looking at another pass catcher coming off a rough game the previous week. Last week, we were on Mike Evans to bounce back and score a touchdown, and that hit for us. And this week, I think Brock Bowers, Raiders tight end, is in a great spot coming off his worst performance of the season, where he had just 2 catches for 19 yards on 3 targets. Just a perfect bounce back spot here. Now listen, he is going up against the Broncos defense, which has been very good this season. They're 3rd in EPA per play, 5th in pressure rate, but I'm hoping that will cause Gardner Minshew to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker, which should be beneficial for a tight end like Brock Bowers. It also helps that Broncos shut down corner Patrick Surtain. You would think that he's going to be covering either Jacoby Myers or Trey Tucker. I mean, if they end up putting him on Bowers, then we might be in trouble. Yeah. But also, yes, and I should mention, the play in this spot is not a touchdown. I like Bowers to go over 45.5 receiving yards at minus 108. And that is also the best price in market at the time of recording. I should also mention Davante Adams is unlikely to play again. He's still dealing with that hamstring injury. So again, you would think that would result in more targets. That wasn't the case last week, but I'm hoping Bowers can get some more targets this week. And then if you look at the last 2 weeks against the Broncos, Bucks tight end Cade Otton had 8 targets against them. And then the week before that, Jets tight end Tyler Conklin had 8 targets against the Broncos. So if we can get 8 targets for Brock Bowers, then I feel pretty confident that he's going to go over 45.5 receiving yards. And like I said, Pinnacle has the best price on that at minus 108. Now listen, before closing out the show, I will add in one more play. Maybe not one of my official best bets on the card, but I do like the Panthers plus 4 at minus 111 on the road against the Chicago Bears. I just cannot trust Caleb Williams and this Bears team as 4-point favorites. I think it's too many points here. Since Andy Dalton took the reins in Carolina, the Panthers' offense has looked a lot better, and I think that they're going to keep it close on the road against Chicago. So that's it. That's it, Scott. No more plays from me.
No, that's it. Well, I was going to say, until we got into Caleb Williams there, this was a very rookie-friendly taping here where we were supporting Jaden Daniels and Malik Nabers and Brock Bowers. And by the way, I like the Brock Bowers pick. I think with Davante Adams out, they should be feeding the ball to Brock Bowers because he's like the real legit weapon they have. at least we had a little balance, I guess, by checking Caleb Williams. And I agree there too. I think the Panthers, well, obviously their ceiling is still quite low. With Andy Dalton, they have a higher floor than they did before. And so it gives them a chance to at least be competitive.
Yeah, and listen, congrats to everyone who had Jaden Daniels Offensive Rookie of the Year tickets before the season, because that is looking very good right now. I mean, who knows? Maybe Caleb or even Brock Bowers, as you mentioned, like maybe they just go on a tear over the coming weeks. But right now, Jaden Daniels is playing out of his mind, and it looks like he's going to take home that award. But that is going to do it for Pinnacle's Week 5 NFL Best Bets. Like I say every single week, all right, whether you are betting on main markets, player props, you got to head to Pinnacle because we have the best odds in the industry, okay? Low margins, phenomenal odds. We're not going to kick you out. We always welcome winners. We have high limits. So if you're a winning bettor, unlike other sports books, Pinnacle is going to continue to allow you to play. We don't limit or kick people out, so that's always a plus. And like I said, no matter what you're betting on across the Week 5 NFL slate, chances are Pinnacle is going to have the best odds. So that's going to do it for episode 5 here. I'm Anthony Bruno for Scott Cullen on behalf of Pinnacle. Remember to bet smart and bet Pinnacle, and we will see you in Week 6.